A well-known scholar once visited a Japanese Zen master, hoping to learn the path to enlightenment. When they met, the master simply invited him for tea. He poured and kept pouring, even as the cup overflowed, and tea spilled all over the table. The scholar, confused, exclaimed, "Master, the cup is overflowing." The Zen master gently replied, "Your mind is like this cup, so full of opinions and knowing that I cannot pour anything new into it." This story isn't just for spiritual seekers. It's for all of us, especially when it comes to money and wealth. How many times in your life have you thought, "I never have enough. I'm not good with money. Someone like me could never be rich"? These thoughts, seemingly harmless, are actually the invisible architects of the financial reality you're living in today. Not your circumstances, not luck, but the assumptions you unconsciously accept as truth. They're what control the numbers in your bank account. In today's video, I'm not going to teach you how to budget, invest, or make money in the traditional sense. Instead, I'll invite you to explore a radically different way of seeing money, of seeing yourself, and most importantly, of seeing how you're constantly creating your own reality. If you're willing to empty the cup just a little, I believe the rest of this video may offer you something truly powerful. If this topic stirs something inside you, consider giving the video a like and subscribe to the channel so I can continue sharing meaningful insights like this with you. Now, let's begin our journey into Neville Goddard's law of assumption, not just to imagine, but to transform the reality you live in. Imagine you're preparing for a job interview you've been dreaming about. You put on the suit, rehearse your answers, visualize walking into the room confidently, shaking hands, smiling like you've already got the job. You don't just hope, you assume. This isn't wishful thinking. This is the core of what Neville Goddard called the law of assumption. Whatever you accept as true in your mind, consistently and emotionally, shapes your external world. You don't wait for reality to validate your belief. You believe, and reality follows. Now let's get this clear. This isn't about pretending something is true and expecting it to magically happen. It's about understanding how the subconscious mind works. Your subconscious doesn't care whether something is real or imagined. It just takes what you repeatedly feed it, especially with emotion and imagery, and runs with it. This is why athletes visualize winning, why performers mentally rehearse. The mind doesn't just reflect reality, projects it. Here's where science backs it up. Neuroplasticity shows us that the brain is constantly rewiring itself based on our thoughts, emotions, and behaviors. If you repeatedly imagine yourself confident, successful, or healthy, your brain starts building neural pathways that support those experiences. It becomes easier to act in ways that align with those internal assumptions. Over time, you literally become what you believe. Then there's the Pygmalion effect. Originally studied in classrooms, it found that students performed better when teachers expected them to do well, even if that expectation was based on nothing but a label. Expectations alter outcomes. Your belief in someone or yourself changes how you interact with them, which shifts how they respond, and the whole system adjusts. It's like reality catches up to your assumptions. But here's the twist that most people miss. You're not just thinking your way to a better life. You're training your nervous system. The reticular activating system, RAS, a network in your brainstem, acts like a filter for reality. It decides what information gets through to your conscious mind. Ever notice how when you want to buy a certain car, you suddenly see it everywhere? That's RAS in action. Once you assume something is important, your brain starts looking for evidence of it. So if you assume you're capable and valuable, guess what kind of situations and people your brain starts highlighting? This is why Goddard emphasized embodying the end result. You're not attracting love, health, or success, like with the law of attraction. You become the person who already has it. Subtle but powerful. You don't wait, you live from it. And because your actions, tone, and energy shift, your environment slowly aligns to match. Now let's widen the lens. Eastern philosophies have understood this dynamic for millennia. In Buddhism and Hinduism, the concept of Maya suggests the world is a projection of the mind, an illusion shaped by our perceptions. The mind is seen, not just as a passive observer, but an active creator. Meditation practices, mantras, and visualizations. In these traditions aren't mystical fluff. They're tools to rewire the mind, to purify perception, and to align inner belief with outer experience. Christianity offers a parallel, though framed differently. As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. That's Proverbs 23 verse 7. Or in the New Testament, Jesus often said, "According to your faith, be it unto you." The pattern repeats. Belief precedes manifestation. Faith in this sense is more than hope. It's a conviction that reshapes how we live and what we encounter. So what do we do with all this? Here's the kicker. Understanding that your mind shapes reality isn't just empowering, it's a responsibility. You can't afford to indulge in self-doubt or dwell in limitation, not because it's negative, but because your subconscious is always listening. Every repeated thought is a vote for the person you're becoming. Every emotional rehearsal is a rehearsal for your future. This doesn't mean ignoring reality. It means seeing that reality is more flexible than we've been taught. The mind isn't just a mirror, it's the mold. Ask yourself, what assumptions am I living from? Not what I say I believe, but what I actually assume every day. Through my actions, choices, and inner dialogue. Do I assume I'm lucky or unlucky? Loved or unworthy? Capable or stuck? Because those assumptions are the architecture of your future. This is where science and spirituality shake hands. They're both saying, change your mind, change your world. Not metaphorically, literally. And maybe right now, the version of you want to be isn't that far off. You don't have to get there someday. You just have to practice living as if you already are. The rest tends to fall in place. Let's talk about why so many people unknowingly push wealth away, even while saying they want it. Not because they're lazy, not because they're incapable, but because deep down, something in their mind says they shouldn't have it. By the time we're 7 years old, most of our core beliefs are already set, implanted through our family, environment, and early emotional experiences. If you grew up hearing phrases like, money doesn't grow on trees, rich people are greedy, or we can't afford that, you likely internalized a belief that money is scarce, dangerous, or reserved for others. These beliefs don't sit on the surface. They hide out in your subconscious, running the show, while you think you're making conscious choices. Let's make it more real. Imagine someone who wins the lottery, suddenly wealthy overnight. You'd think that would change their life forever. But studies show, most lottery winners go broke within 5 years. Why? Because while their bank account changed, their identity didn't. Their subconscious mind was still wired for survival, not stewardship. Without reprogramming their internal model of what's normal, the mind treats wealth as a threat, so they spend recklessly, make poor investments, or attract the wrong people, all unconsciously moving back to the financial comfort zone their subconscious feels safe in. Now flip it. Take immigrants who arrive with nothing, but carry an unshakable belief. I will make it. I have to. That belief isn't wishful thinking. It's an internal compass. Because they expect progress. They notice opportunities others overlook. They're willing to fail, adapt, learn. They act in alignment with a different internal truth. That wealth is possible, and they're worthy of it. This alignment between belief and behavior is what makes change stick. So why doesn't everyone just change their beliefs? Because the invisible cage of limiting beliefs is comfortable. It's what the nervous system knows. If you've been poor your whole life, struggle becomes familiar. Safety is found in the known, not the ideal. Even if your conscious mind wants wealth, your subconscious might be whispering, "It's not safe. It's not you. You'll lose it. People will hate you." These aren't just thoughts. They're emotional truths, shaped by years of reinforcement. Every time your parents fought over bills, every time you were told no at the store, every time you saw wealth used to dominate or exclude, that became part of your mental code. And here's the trap. You might think you're working hard to succeed, but if your belief system says, "I'm not good enough," or "money corrupts," your actions will reflect that. You'll pick the wrong business model. You'll sabotage deals. You'll procrastinate, overdeliver, undercharge. Not because you're stupid, but because your mind is protecting you from becoming something it believes is unsafe. Or not you. Now, some people might say, "Come on, belief isn't enough. You have to work hard." And they're not wrong. But here's the deeper point. If your underlying belief is rooted in scarcity, then your version of hard work will be filtered through that lens. You'll grind, hustle, burn out, doing all the right things the wrong way. And when things collapse, it'll confirm your original belief. "See, I'm just not meant for this." So the solution isn't just positive thinking or affirmations slapped on top of fear. It's about updating your inner operating system. Start asking, what did I learn about money growing up? Who did I see as rich and how were they treated? What part of me believes that success would disconnect me from the people I love? What emotion do I associate with wealth, freedom, or guilt? When you surface these beliefs, you can start replacing them, not with fantasies, but with new emotional truths. You can build evidence of people who are wealthy and kind. You can rehearse the version of you who handles abundance with clarity. And slowly, the subconscious stops resisting. Belief alone doesn't make you rich, but belief directs your energy. It shapes your behavior, your focus, your standards, your risk tolerance. It decides what you'll attempt and what you'll tolerate. If you want different results, you don't just need more effort. You need a different baseline for what's normal. So ask yourself this: what kind of life does your subconscious think you deserve? Because if you don't change that, no amount of hustle will set you free. Close your eyes and imagine holding a lemon. Feel its cool, waxy skin. Now slice it open. Hear the sound. See the juice drip. Bring it to your mouth and take a bite. Did your mouth just water? That's not magic. That's your brain proving a point. It doesn't fully distinguish between imagination and reality. The same neural pathways light up, whether you're experiencing something directly or vividly imagining it. fMRI studies confirm this over and over again. Mental rehearsal activates many of the same regions of the brain as physical action. That's why imagination isn't child's play. It's the blueprint for creation. Neville Goddard was onto something big when he said imagination is not fantasy, but creation. Not in some mystical sense, but in the way the brain physically responds to what you feed it. Imagination, when combined with emotion, becomes a rehearsal space for your future. You're not just daydreaming, you're programming. Let's break it down with some science. In a well-known study, researchers split participants into 3 groups. One practiced playing piano, another just imagined practicing, and a third did nothing. After 5 days, both the real and imagined practice groups showed significant changes in brain structure, almost identical growth in the motor cortex. Think about that. Imagining movement rewired their brains, as if they'd actually done it. Athletes have used this for decades. Olympic sprinters visualize every stride, every breath, every finish line, and it works because imagination, when detailed and emotionally engaged, sends signals through the same neuromuscular circuits that real training does. You're not pretending, you're preparing. So what does this mean? For wealth, love, or success? It means you can start being the person who has what you want before it shows up. But here's the kicker. You can't just think it. You have to feel it. The subconscious speaks, the language of emotion. You can tell yourself, I'm wealthy all day. But if your body is clenched in anxiety or shame, the message doesn't land. This is where most people go wrong with visualization. They picture the yacht, the mansion, the applause, but inside, they still feel like an imposter. That disconnect sends mixed signals. The subconscious doesn't believe in logic. It believes in patterns. And the most powerful pattern it responds to is the emotional state you practice. So if you want to use your imagination as a tool, not a toy, you need to feel first, then think. Let's say you want financial freedom. Don't just imagine a number in your bank account. What does freedom actually feel like in your body? Is it a deep exhale? A quiet mind? Walking through life unhurried, without that knot in your stomach? Can you sit with that feeling long enough for it to become familiar? Because that's the goal, not to trick your brain, but to train it. When you repeatedly enter the emotional state of your future self, your nervous system adapts. That becomes your new baseline, and your behavior, decisions, and energy shift to match. In an interview, Arnold Schwarzenegger once shared that long before he became famous, he would sit in his tiny apartment, broke and unknown, and visualize himself as a successful actor in Hollywood. Not just picture it, he'd feel it. He said he would mentally walk through movie sets, imagine signing autographs, see himself winning awards, when people laughed at his thick accent, or told him he'd never make it in American films. It didn't shake him, because in his mind, it had already happened. He wasn't hoping, he was rehearsing. Years later, his career unfolded, almost exactly as he had imagined. Not because he waited for the world's approval, but because he trained his inner world to match the future he wanted. And when your mind is that clear, your actions start following, without resistance. You see this in all kinds of high performers, not just celebrities or athletes, but everyday people who changed their lives by changing what they practiced internally. Entrepreneurs who rehearsed pitching their dream clients before they ever had one. Survivors who imagined peace long before it was real. Students who saw themselves passing exams when everyone else gave up. It's not about faking it. It's about embodying it. This is why Goddard's teachings hit differently. He didn't say, wish for what you want. He said, assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled. That's not affirmation. That's transformation. You step into a new state of being. You rehearse it emotionally until it becomes your truth. And from that state, new behaviors, new opportunities, and new realities emerge, not because you forced them, but because you aligned with them. Let's bring this home. Try this tonight. Before bed, pick one scene that represents the life you want. Make it short, specific, and rich with feeling. Maybe it's checking your bank app and seeing the number that feels like freedom, or hugging someone you love. In your dream home, now feel into it, not as a hope, but as a memory. Let your body believe it's already happened. That scene, repeated consistently, becomes a new thread in the fabric of your reality. Not because the universe owes you something, but because you've become someone who lives from a different internal truth. And when that shift happens, the world doesn't stay the same. Can't. Because imagination, when paired with emotion, isn't fiction. It's the rehearsal room for what's next. Let's get practical. It's one thing to understand the law of assumption conceptually. Beliefs shape reality. Live from the end, embody the feeling. But how do you actually do that in real life, day after day? That's where technique comes in. Not rituals, not hacks, but structured ways to train your subconscious to accept a new identity so your reality can follow suit. Think of these techniques as mental workouts, each one building the emotional and neural muscle that supports a new version of you. Technique 1: Future Memory. Here's a mind bender that works better than you'd expect. Instead of imagining the future you want, you recall the present as if it's already past, and you've made it. You flip your mental timeline. Instead of thinking, "One day I'll be free," you say, "I remember when I used to worry about bills. Now I feel completely financially free." You're not hoping. You're reminiscing from the vantage point of success. Why does this work? Because the brain doesn't need real timestamps. It responds to emotional truth. And when you speak or think from the perspective of already having, your mind starts wiring itself to support that reality. It's like planting a false memory, but instead of being delusional, you're intentionally rehearsing a new normal. How to use this? Build a short, emotionally rich memory in your mind, something that reflects the shift. Keep it simple. I remember when I had to track every dollar. Now I don't even check the price tag. I remember lying awake worried about rent. Now I sleep like a rock in my dream home. Repeat it daily, especially when you feel stuck. Let your body absorb it. The key isn't repetition alone. It's the feeling of relief, gratitude, and grounded confidence that comes with it. This technique rewires your emotional default. Instead of your nervous system being calibrated to lack or hustle, it starts aligning with peace, stability, and abundance. Over time, your behavior shifts to match that new internal setting. Technique 2: Living in the End. This is Neville Goddard's core teaching, and it's deceptively simple. Act, speak, think, and choose, as if the thing you want is already yours. You're not faking confidence. You're practicing it. You're not dressing up for others. You're dressing in harmony with your identity. You're no longer trying to get rich. You're living like someone who already is. This shows up in tiny daily choices. Do you buy the cheaper option out of scarcity, or the right one out of alignment? Do you say, "I hope someday," or "I'm becoming the kind of person who"? Do you walk into a room like you belong there, or like you're asking for permission? Living in the end isn't about extravagance. It's about coherence. You start eliminating actions that contradict the version of you you're becoming. And here's where it connects beautifully with Buddhist philosophy. In Mahayana Buddhism, there's this idea: live as if you are already the Buddha, not because you're pretending, but because enlightenment isn't something you get. It's something you uncover. You live from it, and the illusion of limitation slowly falls away. Same with wealth, or confidence, or freedom. You don't chase it. You live from it. The magic happens in consistency. When you choose thoughts, words, and behaviors aligned with the end, you condition your subconscious to accept that identity. The friction between where you are and where you want to be dissolves. You're not becoming someone new. You're expressing what's already within you. Technique 3: Wealth Identity Projection. This is about getting specific, building a detailed mental profile of your rich self, and then stepping into that identity, like it's a role you've been cast to play. Because neurologically, when you imagine vividly and emotionally, your brain begins to form new identity circuits. Think of this like character creation in a movie, except the movie is your life. Start by writing down the qualities, habits, and lifestyle of your wealthy self. Not just surface-level stuff like drives a Tesla or lives in a high-rise, but go deeper. How do they talk? What do they do when they wake up? How do they respond to stress? What do they know about themselves that you don't believe yet? The clearer the profile, the stronger the emotional connection. Once you have it, set aside 15 to 20 minutes a day to embody that version of you. Walk around your home with their posture. Speak out loud with their confidence. Respond to fake emails or calls like you're already operating at that level. This isn't make-believe, it's identity rehearsal. And over time, your brain begins connecting the dots. You're not just visualizing a fantasy, you're collapsing the gap between now and then by building new neural associations. With wealth, capability, and success, you'll notice subtle changes. You negotiate differently, hold boundaries you used to ignore, say no to things that don't match your future self. That's not ego, that's alignment. So here's the real point behind all of this. You don't wait for evidence before you believe. You believe, and then you create the evidence. That's not blind optimism. That's how every successful person operates. They see it before others do. They feel it before they have it. And eventually, everyone else just calls it vision. The law of assumption isn't magic. It's precision. Your mind is already building your reality every day. These techniques just help you take the wheel. And if it feels awkward at first, that's okay. New things usually do. But the more you practice, the more natural it becomes. Until one day, you stop trying to be someone new and realize you've simply remembered who you've been all along. Ever wanted something so badly, felt like your whole body was reaching for it, but somehow it kept slipping further away? That's not just frustrating, it's revealing. Because when your desire becomes desperation, what you're actually broadcasting mentally, emotionally, energetically is lack. You're not saying, "I'm ready for this." You're screaming, "I don't have this yet." And that matters. From an energetic perspective, yes, we're going there for a second. What you feel is the real signal you're putting out. The law of attraction isn't listening to your words, it's tuning into your frequency. You can affirm abundance all day, but if underneath that you're anxious, needy, and stuck in scarcity, guess what gets amplified? The need, the absence, not the arrival. Desire in itself isn't the problem. In fact, it's natural, healthy, and often the start of change. But desire charged with fear, tension, or urgency works against you. You think you're moving toward the goal, but energetically, you're reinforcing the gap between where you are and where you want to be. It's the difference between two types of wanting. One comes from joy, inspiration, a sense of expansion, like when you imagine something beautiful and think, "Wow, that would be amazing." And then you go on with your day, trusting it's unfolding. The other kind is tight, is clingy, is the late night scrolling, comparing, doubting. That kind of desire actually comes from fear, not from vision, but from avoidance. You don't want the thing. You want to escape the pain of not having it. And that energy repels. Here's a real-world comparison. Imagine someone asking you out on a date. One person says it with ease, confidence, and a smile. "Wanna grab coffee sometime?" Whether you say yes or no, the energy is chill. Now imagine someone asking you out, while sweating, rambling, and clearly terrified of rejection. You feel the difference, right? That's how your energy works too. When your desires come wrapped in fear or urgency, the universe or your subconscious, if you prefer a psychological lens, feels that pressure. It reads the underlying signal. "I'm not enough unless I get this." That's a low frequency. It doesn't attract solutions. It attracts more problems. So what's the fix? It's something called detached alignment, a state of being, where you stay aligned with what you want, but not obsessed with needing it to happen right now. You show up, you visualize, you feel it, but then you let go. You trust the process instead of strangling it. Think of it like planting a seed. You don't dig it up every day to check if it's growing. You water it, you give it sunlight, and you trust that under the soil things are working. That's what letting go looks like. This doesn't mean apathy. It means confidence. It means you're already embodying the version of you who has what you want. You don't need to beg or prove. You know it's coming, where something better is. So your actions are clear, consistent, and calm, not frantic. And let's be honest, this is hard. especially if you've wanted something for years. But the shift is subtle and powerful. Start catching yourself. When your desire turns into neediness, pause, breathe, ask, am I feeling this from a place of joy or from fear? From wholeness or from lack? The moment you let go, not give up, but let go, you create space. And in that space, things move. Ideas show up. People call back. You suddenly notice an option you missed before. That's not magic. That's what happens when your energy stops blocking your path. So next time you feel that obsessive urge bubbling up, the gripping, the forcing, remember, your job isn't to chase, it's to align, to act, and to allow. That's the sweet spot where creation happens. Ever notice how when you start thinking about something, person, a number, an idea, suddenly shows up everywhere? You think of an old friend, and they text you the next day. You wonder about changing careers, and a podcast randomly plays with the exact advice you needed. Coincidence? Maybe. But when these moments start stacking up, they form a pattern. That pattern is called synchronicity. Carl Jung coined the term to describe these meaningful coincidences that aren't logically connected, but feel too aligned to ignore. From a more energetic or spiritual perspective, synchronicity is the universe, responding to your internal state. Your beliefs, emotions, and focus act like a frequency, and reality begins to echo it back. If you start believing in abundance, your world doesn't instantly shower you with cash, but it does start showing you signs. Repeating numbers like 111 or 888, strangers saying something that hits home, or an unexpected opportunity that nudges you toward your goal. These aren't random, they're reflections, clues that your internal signal is reaching something bigger. And that brings us to the idea of the abundance antenna. Think of your mind like a radio. What you tune into is what you hear. If you're constantly focused on problems, you'll notice more of them. But if you train your awareness to scan for signs of abundance, small wins, lucky breaks, kind gestures, you shift your frequency. You stop waiting for the big break and start catching the trail of breadcrumbs that lead to it. Here's a simple but powerful practice. Every morning, before the noise of the day hits, set a quiet intention. Today I'm open. I'm ready to notice at least one sign of abundance. That's it. You're not forcing anything. You're not demanding. You're tuning in. And then pay attention. That's the real skill. Most people miss their signs because they expect fireworks. But often, synchronicity whispers. It might be a license plate, a casual comment, a sudden gut feeling. Write it down. The act of recording these signs trains your brain to take them seriously. You strengthen the connection. More importantly, when inspiration hits, act on it. Even if it feels small. That nudge to call someone? Make the call. That random idea during your commute? Write it down. That curiosity about a new path? Explore it. Synchronicity isn't just about seeing the signs. It's about responding to them. That's how momentum builds. And don't worry if it feels subtle at first. Like any antenna, it needs tuning. The more you trust it, the clearer the signal gets. Before long, you're not just seeing signs, you're living in sync. Life starts to feel like it's nudging you forward, not working against you. This isn't about magical thinking. It's about alignment. When you believe abundance is real, and that you're connected to something larger, your awareness sharpens, your mind opens, and in that space, opportunities don't have to shout, they just have to show up. You'll be ready. Your subconscious is like the operating system of your life. Quiet, invisible, but running the whole show. If you keep finding yourself stuck in the same patterns, financial struggle, overspending, never quite getting ahead, it's not random, it's programming. And the good news? Programming can be rewritten. Step 1, belief excavation. Start by identifying a pattern that keeps showing up in your life. Maybe it's always being in debt. Maybe money slips through your fingers. No matter how much you earn, whatever it is, don't brush it off as bad luck. Ask yourself, what belief must I be carrying that allows this pattern to repeat? The question alone starts to shift things, because you stop reacting and start observing. You move from being the victim of your life to being the investigator of it. Maybe you uncover a belief like, I'm bad with money. I always mess things up. Rich people are selfish. If I have more, others will have less. But you don't stop there. Keep digging. Where did that belief come from? What moment or memory planted it? Maybe it was watching your parents argue about bills, or hearing money doesn't grow on trees every time you asked for something, or seeing someone wealthy treated like they were arrogant or unkind. Write it down. Be honest. Name the experience, the words, the person. This part matters because your subconscious responds to emotional truth. The clearer you are about where the belief came from, the easier it becomes to release it. And here's something to really sit with. You didn't choose these beliefs. They were passed down, absorbed, reinforced. But if you don't update them, you'll live your entire life according to someone else's version of reality. Step 2. Belief replacement. Now that you've spotted the belief, it's time to change the script. Let's say your old belief is, money is hard to earn. Ask yourself, what belief would better serve me now? What feels empowering but still believable? Maybe it's, money flows to me when I do what I love. I create value, and value attracts income. There's always enough for me and everyone else. The key here is alignment. Don't jump to affirmations that feel fake. If you go from money is hard to, I'm a millionaire, your subconscious will reject it. Instead, find a middle ground that opens the door. Something that feels fresh, expansive, and just believable enough to sit with. And then repeat it, over and over. Not robotically, but with feeling. Here's the secret sauce. Do it in an alpha state. Right before you fall asleep, your brain naturally shifts into a slower, more receptive frequency. It's like the subconscious is sitting at the front desk, ready to take in new information. That's the time to impress it with new beliefs. Close your eyes. Picture yourself living with the new belief. Feel it. Say the words in your mind slowly, like they're true. Money flows to me when I'm aligned with who I really am. Over time, your brain will stop resisting and start integrating. This isn't magic. It's repetition, rhythm, and emotional energy. The theological parallel, changing faith as transformation. In many spiritual traditions, belief isn't just mental, the spiritual power. In Christianity, the word repentance, from the Greek metanoia, doesn't mean guilt or shame. It means a change of mind, a deep shift in perception that redirects your life. To change your belief is to change your identity. And when your identity shifts, so does your behavior, your emotions, and eventually your reality. You don't need to beg for a miracle. You become the miracle when your inner landscape reflects what you want to see on the outside. Faith in this sense is not passive, it's creative. Buddhism also speaks to this through the idea of mental formations, samskaras. Your past impressions shape your present reality. But through awareness and practice, you can dissolve old impressions and create new ones. This is the essence of spiritual maturity, realizing that your outer world is a mirror and that you hold the power to polish or distort the reflection. What does this look like day to day? It means catching yourself in an old script and gently saying, that's the old me. It means choosing to pause instead of panic, to trust instead of chase, to replace judgment with curiosity. When you fall back into old habits, change doesn't happen overnight, but it does happen daily. So start tonight. Choose one belief that no longer serves you. Dig into its roots. Find the emotional thread, and then rewrite it consciously, consistently, and with care. Do this long enough, and you won't just think differently. You'll be different, and everything around you will begin to adjust. Think of the universe not as some far-off force, but as a quiet, brilliant partner working behind the scenes. When you set a clear intention and trust the process, things begin to move. You won't always see it instantly, but somewhere, gears are turning. People are making decisions. Opportunities are aligning, and you're being guided subtly but surely. This is what it means to collaborate with the universe. Neville Goddard called it the bridge of incidents, a chain of perfectly timed events that carry you from where you are to where you want to be. At first glance, they might seem random. A canceled plan, a delayed train, an offhand comment from a stranger. But in hindsight, you see how it all connected. That one meeting led to a new idea, which led to a chance encounter, which led to something even better than you imagined. And that's the point. You're not meant to figure out how your desire will come. Your job is to set the direction, stay open, and move when inspiration strikes. Here's how the Divine Partnership Protocol works. 1. Set your intention. Be specific in energy, not in logistics. If you want financial freedom, feel into what that means emotionally. Is it peace, flexibility, power? Set the tone, not the timeline. 2. Let go of control. This is the hard part. Once the desire is cast, most people start obsessing. They want to know when, how, with whom. But the universe doesn't work like DoorDash. It delivers in the best way, not always the way you expect. Control narrows your field of vision. You start rejecting paths that don't look like the outcome you had in mind. And in doing that, you often block the very bridge that was trying to reach you. 3. Follow inspired nudges. The universe speaks in subtle ways. Curiosity, sudden ideas, feelings that won't go away. These are invitations. You don't have to leap into the unknown, but you do have to move. The bridge of incidents is walked step by step. Action keeps you in sync with the unfolding. Let's say you want to start a new career. You don't need to quit your job tomorrow, but maybe you feel drawn to a book, or a conversation opens up with someone in the field. Follow that thread. Trust that small things often lead to the big shifts. 4. Release the timeline. When you rush, you signal distrust. You're saying, it has to happen by this date or it won't happen at all. That energy is heavy. It repels movement. Timing in this collaboration is sacred. The delay might be protection. The detour might be part of your upgrade. Instead of demanding, ask, what's unfolding for me that I can't yet see? Stay present, stay available. Real life example? Think of the person who misses a flight, gets rebooked, and ends up sitting next to someone who becomes their business partner. Or the one who gets laid off, and in the forced pause, finally launches the thing they've been daydreaming about for years. That's the bridge in action. It doesn't always feel comfortable, but it's precise. Working with the universe means giving up control of the form, but never the faith. You remain clear on what you desire, but open to how it comes. You show up, you listen, you act, not from panic but from alignment. And the more you practice this, the more you realize you were never doing it alone. The intelligence of life has been walking with you the whole time. You just had to stop gripping the wheel long enough to feel it. So the next time something random happens, ask yourself, what if this isn't random at all? What if this is the bridge? Your brain is bombarded with millions of bits of information every second. Sights, sounds, smells, memories, predictions. If it tried to process everything, you'd short-circuit by breakfast. So the brain built a filter, a gatekeeper called the Reticular Activating System, RAS. Its job? Decide what gets your attention. Here's the trick. The RAS doesn't filter based on truth. It filters based on focus. Whatever you consistently think about, feel, or expect, your RAS will prioritize. It's like telling your brain, hey, this matters. Look for more of it. That's why when you're thinking about buying a red car, you suddenly see red cars everywhere. You didn't summon them, They were always there. You just told your brain to start noticing. Now apply that to abundance. If your dominant focus is lack, what you don't have, what isn't working, what you fear, you've trained your RAS to filter the world through scarcity. And no surprise, that's all you seem to experience. But when you shift your focus on purpose, your RAS starts picking up a completely different reality. One with options, resources, ideas, and coincidences you used to overlook. Try this, the 24-hour abundance challenge. For one full day, give your RAS new instructions. Make it your mission to notice and write down every tiny signal of abundance around you. Could be anything: a stranger holding the door, finding a coin on the sidewalk, a free coffee, an idea that comes out of nowhere, compliment, seeing someone else succeed. Yes, that's proof abundance exists. Don't judge or downplay it. Your job isn't to analyze, it's to notice. Write each one down as it happens. On your phone, in a notebook, anywhere. The point isn't just reflection, it's training. Every time you log a sign, you're reinforcing a new filter in your brain. Abundance is normal. Abundance is everywhere. By the end of the day, something shifts. Not because you created more abundance, but because you stopped filtering it out. Most people live with mental blinders on, only seeing what confirms their existing beliefs. If you believe, nothing ever works out for me, your RAS will filter reality to prove you right. But if you start planting new cues like, opportunities are always around me, your brain starts working like a heat-seeking missile, scanning for proof. And here's the kicker: opportunities don't just appear when you're ready. They appear when you're aware. The world hasn't changed. You have. So try the challenge. Takes no money, no special effort, just attention. Do it for 24 hours. Really commit, and you'll realize you've been surrounded by gold this whole time. You just needed to tell your brain to look. You don't have to chase wealth. You don't have to become someone new. You just have to remember who you are beneath the noise. As Neville Goddard said, assumptions harden into facts. The life you live now is a mirror of what you've assumed to be true. About money, about yourself, about what's possible. Real transformation doesn't start with the world changing. It starts with you, shifting what you believe is normal. The moment you stop asking, "How do I get rich?" and start asking, "What part of me already knows abundance?" that's when your reality begins to move. Wealth isn't something outside to achieve. It's a frequency you align with, a state of mind you practice until it becomes your default. That's the real work. And the crazy part? Once your inner world clicks, the outer world tends to follow, often in ways you never could have planned. So if this message landed with you, if it made something click, stirred something inside, hit that like button. Subscribe if you want more content that challenges how you see yourself, your reality, and what you're capable of. And remember, you're not waiting for abundance to find you. You're waking up to the fact that it's already here.